This is going to be unique because we're going to talk about things that are disrupting your fat loss through your weight training, but not with fundamental workout mistakes. No, I'm talking about timing mistakes. I'm talking about potential supplement consumption mistakes and just different things that you don't really think about. You see, a lot of videos will come out and say, oh, well, you're weight training wrong, you're doing this wrong. I want to look at it from a metabolic standpoint. So what are the 7 weight training mistakes that are getting in the way of your fat loss? Because trust me, they are huge, and if you correct them, I think you'll see some progress. I know I did, at least in terms of my weight loss. But first, make sure you hit that red subscribe button and then hit that bell icon to turn on notifications so you never miss our educational content in the world of fasting, in the world of exercise, in the world of keto and metabolic health. And then after this video, I want you to check out Chomps. Okay, these guys are awesome. They have absolutely supported this channel through and through for so many years, but also they are grass-fed, grass-finished meat sticks. So no hidden nasties, non-GMO project verified, super clean stuff. It's about as clean as you can get when it comes down to a meat stick. And it's basically like having a good healthy steak just in your hand. So highly recommend you check them out. Make sure you click on the link so you can save a couple bucks too after you finish watching this video. Too long of rest periods. Yes, we think for some reason that if we allow ourselves a couple minutes rest, that we can lift heavier and therefore burn more calories. Newsflash for you, you're not burning that many calories during your late lifting workout. I think almost every single male out there, and female to be completely honest, thinks that they're burning a lot more calories during their weight training routine than they really are. Keep your rest periods short so you're actually burning fat. Okay, you're not going to get more fat burning by waiting for 3 minutes and doing a heavier bench press or a heavier deadlift. It doesn't quite work that easily. If you keep yourself moving, you will ultimately burn more fat. But at the small level, you burn a little bit of fat, which means you get rid of more of the potential of turning testosterone to estrogen. You see, your testosterone turns into estrogen in the fat. It's called aromatization. If you keep that fat mobilized and burning and just liberated out of the tissue, it can't aromatize, it can't turn testosterone into estrogen. That's going to make a big difference for you. Now, the Journal of Sports Medicine 2010 published a study that also found that shorter rest periods are better for testosterone. You see, they compared 3-minute rest periods to 1-minute rest periods, and guess what? 1-minute rest periods led to a significant increase in testosterone levels, whereas 3-minute rest periods didn't do all that much. So yeah, shorter rest periods is better. We need that stimulus. We need that stressor. Now, if you want to add another fun study, there was something that was published in Journal of Medicine, Science and Sports and Exercise that found that explosivity burned more calories. Okay, so what that means is that if you were to do more of an explosive move and then a slower eccentric and explosive move, you would actually burn more calories. So the point is, move fast. I mean, don't be silly, don't go running around and hurting yourself, but move fast. You actually increase your testosterone levels, which is more of a metabolic driver for you than mechanically lifting more weight and potentially hurting yourself. It's plain and simple, especially if you're getting a little bit older and you need to pay attention to this. Number 2, let's jump over to something that you're probably consuming that you might want to just throw in the trash. Branched chain amino acids. Not only are they standing in the way of your fat loss, but you're wasting your money. And they're expensive things, and they're quite honestly cheap to make. They just rip you off. Okay, here's the thing. Branched chain amino acids spike your insulin levels. Insulin is what stands in the way of fat loss. When insulin is high, fat loss stops. When insulin is low, fat loss is on. So people forget that branched chain amino acids stimulate mTOR, mammalian target of rapamycin, via the stimulation of pancreatic beta cells. Okay, so they're triggering mTOR in pancreatic beta cells because they're spiking insulin. In layman's terms, what this means is you're not really getting muscle growth. You're getting an insulin spike, which could turn on muscle growth. But if you're constantly spiking your insulin, you're never burning fat. Here's an interesting study that was published in the journal Diabetes. Took a look at 1,205 subjects and it followed them and measured them for 2.3 years. Okay, and they measured how much in the way they took of branched chain amino acids over these 2.3 years. Well, guess what? At the end of the study, they found that the subjects that were in the highest tertile of BCAA consumption also had the highest risk for insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is like diabetes, right? You would not be running the risk of insulin resistance if you didn't have something that was consistently spiking your insulin, like branched chain amino acids. Do not spike your insulin. It's getting in the way. Work out in a fasted state, don't consume the BCAAs, and don't consume them all day because it's messing up your fat loss. This next one is one of my favorites. Cardio before weight training. Probably one of the biggest ways you can mess up your workout. Okay, the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research did something really cool. Okay, they published a study, took a look at 4 different kinds of aerobic exercise prior to working out. Now, the kinds aren't really important. What's important is they measure them anywhere from 20 to 45 minutes of aerobic exercise with varying intensities. And then they had them do some weight training with some high pulls, some pull-ups, things like that. Well, guess what? Every single group that did cardio had a huge reduction in the amount of reps that they could complete. There was a decrease from 9.1% ranging to 18.6% in the number of reps that were able to be completed in those that did the cardio before the workout compared to a control that did not. Whoa, okay, so we're killing our testosterone building, muscle building potential so that we can get a few minutes of cardio. Do not do your cardio as a warm-up. Go hit in the sauna, go sit in the sauna, do something for 5 minutes. Light warm-up for 5 minutes. Do some foam rolling, do something. There's a difference between getting blood moving and going into a full-blown cardio workout. Studies have shown that if you do cardio after your workout, you do potentially burn more fat, at least looking at the research. Never mind all of that. The point is, don't burn yourself out before you weight train, because you're gonna get more out of your weight training and moving fast with your weight training than you are doing cardio beforehand. This next one is really fun too, because I like to pick on the bodybuilding crowd with this. Too much isolation. If you go in and you say, I'm going to focus on doing biceps and triceps today, you might get a little localized activation, but you're really just getting blood moving. You're not doing that much, okay? The point is, if you want to burn fat, you got to move your body. Isolation, if you're trying to burn fat, is not necessarily your friend. Is there a goal for that? Yeah, sure, you can get more peak to your bicep, but are you a bodybuilder that is really trying to perfect the perfect bicep peak? Or are you trying to get lean and build some muscle? Okay, it was a mistake that I made, and my weight loss did not start until I switched over to doing more time under tension and full body stuff. Yes, I still lifted heavy, but I stopped going in and focusing on my biceps. However, I will say, that same study I referenced earlier that was published in the journal Nature, well, guess what? They found that if you do your isolation body parts, if you do your isolation moves, after your larger body parts, you can have circulating testosterone that is higher as a result of doing the larger groups that carries over to help the smaller group. So it looks something like this. I go into the gym, I do a bunch of squats, and I get my testosterone levels elevated. Then, while my testosterone levels are elevated, I run over to the bicep curl area and I do some bicep curls. Then I'm capitalizing on testosterone to get growth in my biceps, but I'm not going to walk into the gym and just train my biceps. I don't get the caloric burn, and I'm not getting the metabolic effect that I need, and I'm not going to get the mTOR mammalian targeted rapamycin stimulation that I need after I actually get some good protein in me, right? Point is, lift heavy if you can do it, and lift big body parts. Number 5, not necessarily a bad thing, but something you need to know. If you're training late in the day, you're not getting as much fat loss effect. Probably not nearly as much, unfortunately. If you're training in the middle of the day, later in the day, evening, you can actually get a pretty strong performance effect, which is great. You can lift heavier, you might be stronger, but you're not burning as much fat. You see, here's what's up. There's a study that was published in the journal PLOS 1. Okay, and it was interesting because it took a look at what happens when cyclists, doing time trials, were to work out or do their training in the morning versus the evening. Now, I know a 1,000-meter time trial on a cycle is not the same as a weight training routine, but it is to some degree because it's still highly anaerobic. And for this, it does make sense. So they found that there was significantly more performance in the evening. Their time to complete the trial was less. But in the morning, their cortisol levels were higher, testosterone levels were higher, and their norepinephrine levels were extremely high, 46% higher than the other group. So here's what you need to know metabolically. Cortisol is required for some fat burning. It's very important, but more importantly, norepinephrine, which is elevated at 46%, is imperative for fat burning. If we don't have epinephrine, norepinephrine, we don't have those catecholamines like adrenaline elevated, they cannot activate hormone-sensitive lipase, which is the only place in which fat burning can occur at an enzymatic level. Okay, it doesn't allow the phosphorylation of perilipin, which doesn't allow hormone-sensitive lipase. If you're a science nerd, you're understanding what I'm saying, but the point is simple. We cannot activate true lipolysis and fat mobilization, fat burning, if we don't have things like norepinephrine coming out. And we don't have as much in the evening. So if we want more fat burning, we've got to work out in the morning. If you want more performance, cool, you're fine to work out in the afternoon. Switch it up, play it up, but make sure you get some morning workouts in there. Number 6 is going to be frying the central nervous system. Now here's what's funny. Now when we talk about frying the central nervous system, we're talking about doing so much weight training and so much heavy lifting that your nervous system gets fried to the point where you're actually not able to activate muscles very well. This is a little bit of a complex subject, and we can actually go into a lot of trigger point stuff. We can go into a lot of complex stuff that I really need to get a qualified physical therapist on my channel to really talk about, because it's beyond me. But I know enough, and I know enough from my injuries and from working with some amazing PTs, that central nervous system overstimulation does not really exist from weight training itself. Okay, weight training itself will overstimulate what's called the peripheral nervous system. Okay, the little satellite nerves and things like that that are actually sending the movement. Central nervous system is the brain, like everything there sending the signal to move the legs. Like brain says leg, move. And then there's the peripheral nervous system that actually moves the leg. We can fry the heck out of that stuff, but it's not going to fry our central nervous system. What's going to fry our central nervous system is overtraining to the point where our adrenaline levels are so overstimulated that we're not sleeping. So if you notice immediately that you are not sleeping, you need to tone back your training. You have to. That is your first sign of too much adrenaline to the point where you will get central nervous system overstimulation and it will get fried. Okay, then you're gonna have adrenaline issues, you're gonna have and you're not gonna be able to burn fat as much. Okay, the point is proper activation, but I wanted to piggyback this with, if your nervous system is fried and you're really just taxed, then you're not going to activate the right muscle groups. So nervous system activation is more important than blood flow activation or blood flow in general, right? So what I would recommend is do activation moves before you do any weight training. Okay, if you're gonna go and do some chest press, for instance, do some light activation moves to actually get the chest firing. So you're not just lifting with your joints, you're lifting with the muscles that are actually trying to get a metabolic effect. Anyhow, that's a whole separate video that we could do. Last but not least, and one that is super important, so I hope you haven't turned off the video. If you are eating right after your workout or having a protein shake right after your workout, you're missing out on valuable fat burning that could be occurring. My recommendation is to wait about an hour at least after your workout. You see, after your workout, you're still burning fat. You still have this wave effect that's occurring where your body is still utilizing things. Your AMPK levels are still elevated. All these things that are allowing your body to pull from stored body fat. The second that you consume something, you halt that. So don't do that. Okay? Protein synthesis, where your body takes protein and turns it into muscle tissue, occurs for up to 24 hours and sometimes even longer after a workout. So you don't need to eat right after your workout. You don't. So you could fast after your workout. In fact, I do it all the time and still be fine and still have protein synthesis where your body's gonna build muscle. So don't stand in the way of your fat burning by leaving the gym and having that protein shake. Let it burn for a little while. Let it ride. Go for a walk. Get your routine done. Move and burn some fat. Anyhow, that's all I have for you today. Have some fun with the stuff, implement these things, and tell me if you don't start seeing some positive results. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on that little bell icon, and I will see you in the next video.